Hey everyone, and welcome to another Factorio Friday Facts, number 432, Aquilo. I'm Exterminator, and thank you so much for joining me today. And I am actually quite surprised that they decided to reveal the final planet before release. I think they figured, basically, they changed the embargo limitations recently to where all of us, like content creators and stuff, could basically talk about and show whatever we wanted after Monday when the embargo lifts. So they probably figured why not just show it themselves now, which is fine because this is a pretty big aspect of the game. So a lot of you probably already guessed this, what this was, at least the name. We already kind of deciphered what the name was, like at least a month or two ago. And Aquello is correct, what we had deciphered as a community. And there were some pretty close speculations on what this was. There are some mechanics that are different than what people thought, but we're just going to hop right into it with that. So, Arendelle, again, as always, gives a very nice immersive intro here, which I will actually read because it's quite short compared to the other planets. So, let's go. It's day, but stars still twinkle in the dark sky. You count the planet's sun among the stars larger and brighter than the others, but still so dim you can barely feel its warmth at all. A howling wind chills you to the bone and gently rocks the iceberg you are sitting on. This planet has no land. It's an ocean world of liquid ammonia. One continuous ocean covers the entire planet, and it's at least 200 kilometers deep. The best landing spot you could find was this large iceberg. The sheet of ice is only a few meters thick and seems to contain a lot of trapped air, but frozen water is a very solid material as long as it stays cold. It's able to support a landing pad, so that's good enough. You sit on the edge of the ice watching the snow fall. It gracefully deposits itself on your frozen machines, sealing machines, chemical plants, transport belts, and inserters all frozen in place, unable to move. In the distance, you spot columns of teal gas, fluorine bubbling up from the depths. It's one of the resources you're here for, but out of reach for now. There seems to be plenty of oil, most likely from microorganisms in the core. Making fuel on site shouldn't be a problem as soon as the refinery is unfrozen. You take the time to plan your next moves, collecting ice from the surrounding ocean to extend the platform, heating towers to warm your buildings, heat pipes to move the heat around, and concrete to make sure that the heat doesn't melt the ice. Thought of running heat pipes through all your designs is starting to make your head spin. But it's okay, don't panic. There's one thing you have on this planet, is time. A flurry of shooting stars distracts you for a moment. You can't help but wonder if they're little meteorites burning up in the atmosphere or the remaining parts of the space platform that dropped you here. The space platform barely made it to this planet and never made it out of orbit. You got out just in time. Hopefully, a replacement platform will be here soon if it survives. There's a clunking sound behind you as the landing pan opens its hatch. You turn to see a formation of cargo pods descend through the atmosphere. It's time to build. So, pretty interesting stuff here. Basically, this is taking a lot of aspects from like Frostpunk. Not by any means saying they just copied them, but like this is a very similar vibe and does kind of feel that way when you play it as well. And on the surface, like it seems like it's going to be really tedious and annoying. It may seem even more so as we go into this, and it is a bit, but I will say it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Like, it is obviously more tedious than building on novice because you do have to heat everything, which we'll go into next. But it's honestly, in my opinion, still like way better than Gleba. So at least we can have solace or not in that. But we're gonna just hop into the video. There's several videos here actually. So we're gonna just watch these and then continue into the mechanics and everything you get from this planet and what you have to do. All right, there we go. So first off, I love the music in here. This is I actually I don't pay attention to the music as much as I should in game. So I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually know if this is music directly from Aquilo or if this was like pulled to just put on this video. I feel like this is directly from Aquilo. I haven't spent a ton of time there myself. It's in the playthroughs I've done with people, we've gotten there, but it's usually someone else who goes there. I mean, I've obviously like watched and like understand the processes, but I haven't actually been there in person that much. So I don't recognize if that music is directly from there, but I'm sure it is. But outside of the music, it's pretty interesting. So a liquid planet, basically, as they explained, is it's just these chunks of ice floating on the ammonia ocean. Now, I'm not sure, like realistically, if that's reasonable or not, but again, I think we have to just like set some of this stuff aside and just kind of enjoy the gameplay and mechanics because there's just going to be some stuff that's not fully realistic, to be honest. But basically, when you go into here, if you use an offshore pump in the ammonia coal ocean, you don't get water, you get mostly liquid ammonia, but with some ice particles floating in. You can separate these in a chemical plant. These substances have a variety of uses, but among them is the ability to make ice platform. Ice platform allows you to extend the iceberg and extend your building area, making ice platforms can be slow process, so it's good to scale this process while you have spare energy and heat. So basically like C block, but far less annoying. I say far less annoying because I mean it's really quite simple. You just pump out the ammonia from the ocean, separate it out to get the ice from it, and then you just make the ice blocks and expand. And then you do need to build concrete on top of that because otherwise you can't just build straight on the ice. So, it basically has a general mechanics of C block in the essence that you just expand the area you can build on with like basically landfill, but it's ice. But trust me, it's way less annoying than C block. And then freezing and heating. So he's the next big mechanic, and it's a wonderful twist the way that you build. Most things on Aquilo freeze if they are not heated, as you can see. And the graphics look amazing, by the way. These are hand painted by Arendelle. Just they look so nice. And you'll notice there is a new building here, which we will get into. But let's get into this new building. So heat is generated by a heating tower, which burns chemical fuels that can be made locally, or the nuclear reactor that requires imports from Novice. The heating tower is interesting as a burner because it's more like the reactor. It continues to consume fuel even at max temperature. As well as heating, this can be a good way to get rid of anything burnable, which means it can be very useful on Gleba. So this again, I mean, first off, looks amazing, and it is definitely crucial for Aquilo because, I mean, you could bring actually reactors from Novice if technically you could skip this if you wanted to just bring reactors and use that. Although I think having these scattered around just looks really cool too, and they're definitely cheaper than reactors. So they just provide heat, but again, then you can burn stuff in them, which is great for Gleba because you can just take all of your like spoilage and almost spoiled stuff and basically just burn it and not have to like worry about recycling or filling chests with it or something. But I will say that it is a little bit odd, like the order of things. It makes sense, obviously, for the heat tower to be on Aquilo. However, Aquilo is like, it's the last planet, right? So you can't get to it. It just seems weird for it to be like, you have to go to Gleba and then go to Aquilo afterwards to get the thing that's going to make Gleba work well, which I mean is a very oversimplification. You can definitely still do stuff on Gleba without the heat tower. It's just much more annoying in my opinion. I just kind of wish there was like a way to burn stuff or destroy stuff in some way, like just inherently from Gleba or one of the other two planets. But this is not not a Gleba video, so we will just stop right there. And then you can see the concept from line art to the final graphic here. And then we go into say both the heating tower nuclear reactor are heat sources. Of course, they spread heat through heat pipes, but they only need to get the entity up to 30 degrees Celsius for the entity to unfreeze, right? Which is significantly lower than, like actual nuclear power. And then going for higher temperatures is a waste, like out at outposts, because again, like you don't need it hotter than this anyways. And this is also why they added the ability to read temperature of heat sources and control them with circuits, which I'm sure people will do a lot of fun stuff with. And then heat sources only being able to warm adjacent things that touch them is very limiting. Instead, you use heat pipes to move the heat around to all entities adjacent to connected heat pipes, including diagonally. Every entity that needs heat also consumes heat. The effect is minor per entity, but can result in a lot of heat loss over long distances, so sometimes you want a hotter heat source so that the heat can travel further. Lots of heat words in here. Heat pipes and heated buildings would melt the ice, so to protect the ice that keeps you floating, you can place concrete or refined concrete as an insulator. In practice, this basically means that most entities just cannot be built directly on ice. Like, the game will not let you on Aquilo. And, well, I guess anywhere, but Aquilo is like where the ice is actually buildable. We don't actually turn the ice tiles into ocean anymore. Basically, I guess what would happen is like, this was like, this must have been quite a while ago. This was far before the land beta testing, but I guess it used to be in a way where like you could place stuff on the ice, but then the ice would turn into ocean and maybe lose the building or something. I'm not actually sure. I'm glad they changed it though, because that would be extremely frustrating. So now it's just like, if it's not concreted, you can't build on it, basically. But it was too annoying, yeah, as you can see here. Heat pipes can't go underground or under ice, so you'll need to route the belts and pipes around them while building, which does present an interesting challenge for sure. Often this means a machine will need access to belts, pipe, and heat, but all the belts and pipes also need access to heat, and this can lead to some nice little puzzles and very interesting builds. So you can see, you kind of just like route them around, and we'll watch this video here. You know, you kind of can just like route them around here, and it's not as annoying as it may seem initially. Like, you do have some challenges where you have to like try to get belts in and inserters, and I mean getting in beacons with this too is going to be quite interesting, but it's definitely workable. Alrighty, so there we go. And you can see also the fusion power being used as well, which is quite an interesting challenge in some cases. This is a very small setup, but as it gets larger, it becomes quite the puzzle figuring out like, how do you get heat pipes near everything so they don't freeze, but also route like the liquids through and then the hot liquids out that you need to route. They went over this in the fusion reactor Friday Facts, and then also make sure everything's connected plasma wise. It's definitely an interesting puzzle, but you can see there's also nuclear power. Like, they have the reactors, but they're generating power as well as generating heat, it seems. So definitely, you can definitely do a mix of both, right? Just like throw an extra reactor down maybe, and then that can like generate heat while you're at it from the setup that's already doing power. Definitely lots of options here. Speaking of options, what resources do we have? Well, basically not solar. 1% is horrific. It is so bad. Solar panels, like just base solar panels, are 60 kilowatt production during the day. It's averaged to 42 normally on the office because of the day-night cycle. This is, so best case, this would be like 6 kilowatts, or averaged out would be like 4.2, which is just, you really can't. Is that what, like an inserter? I don't know all the power consumptions off the top of my head, but it's basically non-existent. And you will have to deal with this for a very short time. Like, when you first land, probably you may need this. Although, again, if you brought nuclear or something, you could probably just jumpstart it without solar potentially. And then ammoniacal solution from ocean directly, crude oil from resource nodes, lithium brine from resource nodes, and fluorine gas from resource nodes. So you can see in order, this is the ammonia going into here, this is oil, and then this is the lithium brine, and this is the fluorine gas. So lots of pump jacking going on here for sure. And the resources all look pretty nice too. Well, they look really nice. The actual like node colors on map, I did notice, are kind of some of them, particularly like the fluorine blends in quite a lot, I think. Or I think like these two have a similar kind of color on the map. It's like a little confusing at first because it's hard, it's easy to like mix up which is which, but it's not the biggest deal. Obviously, you can notice the difference on the resource itself, but like in the map view, the icons I think are kind of like a little too similar, but that's a tiny nitpick, of course. Solar output is truly pathetic, as as is stated here, but efficiency models do go a really long way. So efficiency models finally have like a realistic use that could actually be extremely helpful. I mean, they can still be used anywhere, of course, but this is like, oh man, I really need these. Same with space platforms. Efficiency modules are fantastic on space platforms. Ammonia solution could be gained via an offshore pump with a powered heating chemical plant. You can split to ice and ammonia. Ice can be melted for water, which is needed for any power beyond pathetic solar. And then obviously, as we went into, it's for the iceberg expansion. And then ammonia can be used with crude oil to make solid fuel or combined with solid fuel to make a rocket fuel. Crude oil can be collected with a pump jack in a few places where it floats up from the ocean depths. And it can be combined with ammonia to make fuel or refined the usual way, which can be a useful sink for excess ice and water while also making fuel. Also note that it's an animated resource now, even on Novice, as you can see here, whereas before it was just kind of static. So this is really nice. Lithium brine floats up to the surface in some spots and requires a pump jack. It is used to make lithium, which you'll need for a variety of things, including the Planet Science Pack. Fluorine gas bubbles up in some places, and this also requires a pump jack. Fluorine is used to make coolant, which is an essential part of this planet's industry. Cryogenics. Coolant is used in a few things, but initially it's only used for Aquilo Science Pack, the Cryogenic Science Pack, which is made in a cryogenic plant. So pretty cool. I was looking earlier for like quality. These seem kind of low quality, but I don't see a way to adjust them on these. But overall, the cryogenic plant is fantastic, and there's a reason I almost misspoke as a chemical plant. But we'll get into that. So, cryogenic plant is a powerful 5x5 structure with a base crafting speed of 2. It doesn't have base productivity like the EM plant or the foundry because it deals with a lot of looping recipes, so that would kind of break things. But it does have 8 module slots, which is pretty insane. So extra productivity modules can be used in the recipes that support it. And you can see some concept art here. Early cryogenic plants, of course, by Arundel, and the bottom 2 were chosen by Albert, and some of the other stuff was combined into it to give us the final line art and complete concept here. Again, line art always just looks so cool. I love that so much. While the structure can use some chemical plant recipes, so that's why I accidentally said that, because so on last Friday Facts, I was complaining. I was like, well, it would have been nice if like the Gleba, crap, I'm just drawing a complete blank. The biochamber from Gleba could be used for like chemical plant stuff. I was like, because we don't really have anything to do like oil liquid related stuff that we know of. I couldn't say anything obviously at the time, but we do have something. It's just not until quite a lot later on Aquilo. But yeah, this can do some chemical plant recipes, and then it is mainly focused on recipes that need cold temperatures and a lot of precision. Some examples are cooling the cryogenic science pack, fusion power cells, quantum processors, and some other late game items as well. As you can see here, it has quite a lot of pipe inputs too, and then this going in here is, I'm just gonna say it because it's pretty obvious. This is likely making either the fusion power cells or quantum processors. They obviously have the recipes turned off, but there's nothing like base game that requires all these items. I'm pretty sure this is maybe quantum processors based on these ingredients. And then, I mean, you can kind of see it being output here, barely. Yeah, that's definitely quantum processors. And then I forget what's being made in here for it, but yeah, so quantum processors are a new thing as well that you need, and they are needed in quite a few late game stuff. As you'd imagine, they're very late game items, and you can see here they're like the final tier circuits. They need something from each of the new planets. They are needed to make fusion reactors that you saw in that Friday Facts, and then quantum processors also needed to make the final turret of the game, which is a railgun. And this thing is so much fun, folks. Oh my god, this thing is an absolute blast to use. Literally, it is, and my gosh, is it powerful. So why don't we just listen to the little demo here. I'm going to crank this up a little bit because the sounds are just absolutely amazing. Oh man, and when you have, let me tell you, when you have more than one of these firing at once, oh, it is so satisfying. Now, I know I saw some comments like railguns don't, output shells and like other stuff. We have to get past that. Like, yes, it may not be 100% realistic. We have far past that point, I think, in Factorio. The gist of the matter is this thing is crazy. The damage starts at 10k. And you can get damage upgrades from this. I am pretty sure they're infinite as well. They obviously get insanely expensive. But, and don't forget quality too. There's quality with this too. So the damage can easily get up to like 30, 40, 50,000 or something. I mean, it's just absolutely insane, this gun. And it has a huge range too. So it requires both ammo and electricity. It has a range of 40, which I believe the range also increases with quality. And yeah, the damage starts at 10k. It damages everything in a continuous line, which is also quite interesting. So be careful not to stand on the wrong side, or more likely I can see myself and other people potentially blowing up sections of their base because like they built this facing the wrong way, or it shoots at something on the other side of the base, or like maybe you build it and then later on build like an outpost that happens to be kind of in front of it but within its range. And there's an enemy or something. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a real bad time. It's gonna be pretty funny. But the railgun is absolutely fantastic, and man, does it just demolish like everything. And there is a handheld version as well. They do go into that, but it has a 3x5 base. It has a fixed direction like a flamethrower turret. Sorry, like a flamethrower turret. I don't know why I saw a comment there, but the attack cone is narrower than 90 degrees. If you could only build in 4 directions, it would create blind spots, so you can build railgun turrets in 8 directions, which is interesting. Normally you cannot build diagonal, right? But you can see the like shells coming in here, and then they like rotate on the platform too, which is just magnificent, and they're just so cool. I love these things so much. My apologies. Like, okay, sorry, I know I was really loud, but also, you're welcome because, man, I told you when all of them are firing at once, it just sounds so freaking cool. And then, yeah, there's also a handheld version that's very effective against demolishers, the worms on Volcanus, but that's not the main use for the turret version. What do you need the turret for? I'll let you speculate. And there's been a lot of speculation, and I'll say some of it is pretty dead on accurate and some of it is wildly inaccurate. Again, until Monday I cannot say specifically, but in when I release, I will be releasing a video of like that's specifically spoilers. There's honestly not that much, like not too much left that they haven't talked about yet, so it's gonna mostly be around like the in-game, like after Aquilo and stuff like that, and I'll go into like what the railguns are used for in that video. So yeah, if you want to find out and all that stuff, I will be putting that video out. This, again, will be separate from my main overview video, which will not contain spoilers outside of what's been shown in the Friday Facts. But today's Friday Facts was pretty awesome. I don't want to keep us here any longer. It's already been quite a while, but It is a very unique planet. It is challenging, but again, I will be honest, for me personally, it's actually still easier and less frustrating than Gleba. But it's definitely an interesting puzzle. The ice concept and the freezing buildings and having to heat them, and also the different processes. I find the recipes really interesting. Is one thing I will say. Like with the different liquids and the different ways you have to like separate things and then recombine things to make other stuff. It is definitely quite a bit different than what we're used to. And in a good way. I really don't have many complaints with Aquilo. Again, I haven't played on it extensively, my character on there like in person. But from what I have done on it and what I've seen other people do on it, like in our games, because you can just like map view in, it's really pretty interesting. I really don't have any complaints with it. I don't think so far, aside from resources maybe being a little scarce in some cases, and the power can be. We have definitely had several power outages. The power can be problematic. But as they can say here, they actually say that here, that it's pretty easy to accidentally underpower your base. So yeah, this is something to watch out for. But we now have, one last thing I'll say is we now have all the ingredients to make an absolutely monstrous factory, right? So if we review here really quickly, we have the foundry from Volcanus, we have the EM plant from Fulgora, and then we have the Cryogenics plant from Aquilo, and then we have the biolab from Gleba to do the science. So not only do you get like basically two science cycles for the price of one from the biolab because of its 50% depletion rate, you also have all of these other buildings. So you can now basically do most primary processes with these super amped up buildings. Again, this does not do every single chemical plant recipe, but it does do a fair few of them. So, and then with 8 modules, I mean, it's crazy. And then the other buildings have the 50% productivity plus module slots. So you can start to see how you can just go with absolutely insane numbers, and that's not even taking into account like quality with these buildings or anything else. So we are pretty set to have some pretty crazy bases and science numbers and just production numbers across the board. I'm so excited. Everyone, I'm so excited for Monday when I can finally like put out content for you guys, and I'm excited for you guys to be able to play in like 10 days. It's going to be an absolute blast. Please leave your thoughts below. I hope you enjoyed. As always, very curious to hear what you think of the planet. I'd love to hear your speculations for the railgun usage as well, just, for fun, and in any other thoughts and such you have. Always enjoy reading your comments, and definitely keep an eye out. Monday I will be releasing several videos, an overview video, a spoiler content video, which will be clearly marked, don't worry, and then also the first episode of my Let's Play. All of these will go out Monday. I know it's 3 videos in a day, but I want to give you guys a lot of stuff to watch if you want, and I just want to put out the content. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I so greatly appreciate it. Please your thoughts below, and a like if you did enjoy and are excited for Aquilo. And then if you are not subscribed already, feel free to keep up with the future content. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and to take care.